Hey everyone, Ryan here from Next Level Property Investing. HMO Heaven, how to successfully invest in HMOs. So I'm just on my way over to pick up the keys for another one of our HMO purchases. Nice 5-bed, sort of 3-story townhouse. And I'm excited to tell you all about the numbers and tell you exactly what we do and why you should be investing in HMOs. For those of you who stick around to the end, I've got a nice little gift for you and help you guys get started on your journey with 150 top tips, 6 months worth of top tips dropped into your email box straight away. So HMOs for me, I was a bit of a late starter in HMOs. I started on the serviced accommodation game as my super rent strategy, and I felt like I executed that quite well, and still to this day continue to push forward on the serviced accommodation side of stuff. And it's a great strategy, it does very well for us, and I will continue to push that strategy. So but as you get bigger and bigger, you don't want to be putting your eggs all in one basket. So the natural progression was, as well as topping up with the single lets, which we do all the time, I felt it was time to go into a different super rent strategy. So for me, that was HMOs, and we started looking at both rent to rent HMOs and purchase HMOs. And whether it's purchase SAs or purchase HMOs, you make obviously a lot more money. Mortgages are a lot cheaper than rents, and it just naturally makes more money, and you've got less risk as well. It also means if need be, you can actually rent your rooms out a bit cheaper. So during COVID, when the panic was setting in, there was a lot of the sort of big HMO players were sort of dropping their room rates right down, and people were wondering how they can do it. Well, if you're only paying £300-400 a month on a mortgage as opposed to maybe £1,000 rent a month, then you don't need fortunes for each room to still make a decent profit. So when you're getting into rent to rent, you also want to be mindful of who you're competing against. But rent to rent's a great strategy. We've got a lot of it in our portfolio as well, and done right, it creates some good cash flow. But for me, HMOs, a great way. It's totally different to serviced accommodation, where you're dealing with tenants rather than guests. They're in there for quite some time. But what I want to come on to is the setup of HMOs and how you make sure you stay on the right side of the law, because time and time again I see a lot of people getting into these rent to rent deals, and they're not really taking into account all the costs. If you're going 5 beds or more, 5 people or more, you're going to need to get a license. And to get a license, you've got to tick a lot of boxes. And not every council is the same, so it's not a simple case of one rule book fits all. Or the councils have various different ideas on the fire safety and various other things. But in brief, what you're going to need is I go with sort of FD30 fire doors, and those doors need to be on every room that leads out onto the escape route of the house. So you've got to have the escape route clearly defined. It's got to be a 30-minute escape route, and any room that leads onto those that passageway needs to have the lights. Obviously we need the emergency lighting in there, and then depending on how many floors it is, and again on your council as well, depends on what fire alarm system you're going to need. So do you just need an interlinked version, which is cheaper than a full fire panel version? Typically houses over 3 floors need to go on the fire panel, but not always. It does work on sort of square footage as well, and those on interlinked. Now there is a sort of cheaper option of doing it if you've already got this house, for example, that we've bought today. It's already pretty modern. It's got a good fire alarm system in there, but it's not quite up to standard. So we'll get it up to standard and put some sort of radio transmitting fire alarms in there, as opposed to sort of linking all the wires through and tearing the plasterboard back. And again, that's a good solution, as long as it's done properly. It does tick the boxes, and as long as it all works, obviously. But again, a good system, and it can save quite a bit of money, because you're looking at probably $3,700 to anywhere to $4.5 to $5,000 for a full sort of fire panel system in sort of HMO size houses. So it can be quite expensive. And another thing which a lot of people don't talk about is the acoustic levels. So because it's going to be obviously a shared house as such, So you've got to make sure that the acoustic levels are right, make sure that, you know, the tenants' rooms are all protected and they're not just hearing sound from everywhere. Again, something that HMO license officer can kick back your license for. So sometimes it pays dividends to get an acoustic test done before you start doing full refurbs. Most houses will tick the boxes, but you know, if you're having to put up partition walls, it would be a good idea to probably get these tested, because that could definitely create a fail in the acoustic levels. So, and then when it comes to actual furniture as well, you know, people forget about the furniture. What furniture do you need? I would advise getting trade accounts if you're going to go into HMO big time. We use trade accounts and then we use sort of joiners and handymen to put it together. I know there's a lot of furniture companies out there who do a great job for people. They come and it's a full service and they take it away and it's hassle free. But for me, I feel like I can do that service myself through the staff that I've got, and obviously the maintenance people that we work with, and still save money, because ultimately this is a business venture. So you've got to be saving pennies all over the place, and especially if it's a rent to rent, you need to be getting that investment out as quick as you possibly can, in fear that the landlord can take the property off you at any time. Obviously, if you've got a great relationship with the landlord, then he's not going to take the property off you, because you're going to be a lot safer bet than a tenant, and that's probably why you engaged in the first place. But you just never know when they might need to sell a house or whatever, so you've just got to have that in mind. And for me, if I do a rent to rent deal, I want all my money back out, all my investment money back out, maximum 6 months. So that's how I calculate it. If it doesn't tick those boxes, I don't invest in it, or I try and do a deal with the landlord to make it tick those boxes, i.e. rent-free periods or something like that. So at the end of the day, if you're spending money to upgrade their property, they might be a bit more flexible and then go into that win-win situation with you. But furniture is, it can be a lumpy cost. You're going to look at anywhere from probably, if you do it my way, $2,500 up to potentially, $5-6 grand. I've seen some of these furniture quotes come back at for the full service. So, you just got to bear in mind that in your cost. And then you come to sort of floors, kitchens. You've got to make sure there's a cupboard for every person. You've got to make sure there's ample space. One thing that I've learned through investing in HMOs is I know a lot of people say you don't need a communal space, but you do need a communal space. And the more homely you can make it, the more social you can make it, the better the tenants will get on, the more they'll socialise, and normally the longer that they'll stay. We did have a property once where it didn't have a communal space, and I just couldn't get it rented. I took the action to flip it into a serviced accommodation unit and split it into 2 flats, and that works well for us. So I had that option, which is where the diversification of the business comes in, which is great. So, but if you didn't have that option, you could be stuck with a high rental or a property that doesn't necessarily work. So you've just got to be careful about making sure you're creating these spaces. Again, with bathrooms as well, I think anything more than 3 bedders probably don't work really on a room by room let, but 5 bedrooms or more, you really need a minimum of 2 bathrooms and a toilet. So this particular one that I've just bought, it's got a ensuite upstairs, and all the bedrooms are big. It's got a big, we're going to convert the garage into a lounge, which is going to create the 5th bedroom. And we then have a huge kitchen, which will also have a dining area as well. So there's going to be plenty of social space in this house, which is going to create a really nice house. Obviously, we're going to strip it all out, new carpets, new furniture, new decoration, all the latest mods in there, and it's going to be a really nice place for people to stay. And I think if you invest right now, when you've got that canvas to work with, you're going to get it rented straight away, and it's going to pay dividends in the long term. So another tip that I do is when we are looking at an area and I'm a bit unsure, we may pop a spare room advert online. But even when I know I've secured this property, so I bought this property 2.5-3 months ago, I think it was now. We put an advert on spare room with a idea of how we want it to look, and we then collect inquiries from potential tenants who are interested in viewing it. And when we're ready to launch this in about 3 weeks time it'll take for the refurb. We've got a database of people to literally email saying this room's available, that room's available, and that's how you fill your rooms quick. So the minute you acquire a property, get it on Spare Room. Even if you haven't got pictures of that particular house, put pictures up of what you think it's going to look like. I use Pinterest a lot to design our houses, whether it be service accommodation, buy-to-lets or HMOs. I use Pinterest a lot to design the houses, and I might just pull a picture off that and pop it on. And if you're getting loads of viewing requests, then that's how you should be designing the house, because that means that that's what they're interested in. They've seen that picture, they like the look of it, so design it in that way, and then ultimately you're going to end up getting your rooms full straight away. So again, another little hack there to try and make sure that you get the rooms full as quick as you can, and also make sure that they stay occupied as well. So the numbers on this one, I've bought it for 161,000. The way I do it is I take a bridging loan out, or on this one I've taken a bridging loan out. So I take a bridging loan out, put 30% deposit down, pay the stamp duty and solicitors obviously, and the payment on it's probably just shy of £1,000 a month whilst I've got it on the bridging loan. But we should be finished the refurb in about 3 weeks, so I've already I'll start the application to get it onto a mortgage pretty much straight away. And because it's on a bridging loan, you can do it before the 6-month rule. There are lenders out there that'll do it, and then we'll get it off, and it'll probably have a mortgage of somewhere. I think this will revalue up to about 220,000 once it's done, once we've done all the work on it. So should pull out most of the money, if not all of the money, and then I'll have a decent amount of equity sat in the property once it's on a 75% mortgage, and it'll cash flow probably including bills, probably about 1,700 a month, 1,800 a month. Obviously I own this, so it's only going to be a probably £400 a month mortgage. Sometimes with the super rents, I haven't quite decided on this one yet. I'll have a look at the numbers when my mortgage advisor sends them, but I do sometimes quite often now put things on repayment. Yes, I'll be paying a lot higher and have less cash flow, but at the same time, if guests and tenants can pay down my mortgages and get that portfolio lower leveraged, then that's going to serve me well going forward. So I'll make a decision on that once I see the two numbers and see how much it eats into the profit. But even so, it's still going to net cash flow fantastic for us. It's another great property into the portfolio. It's the second HMO we've bought this month, so we've added 10 bedrooms this month through 2 properties, and added a decent amount of cash flow. So HMO is a great strategy to get involved in, whether you're doing it rent to rent or whether you're doing it by buying them. I'm an advocate of both. I know there's some investors out there that don't want to do rent to rent, but for me, rent to rent probably is great for cash flow, and and they work really, really well. So get involved in it. If you want to know more about it, drop a comment in the drop a comment below. I'll answer any of your questions. And if you want to take your game to the next level, jump over to nextlevelpropertyinvesting.com/email series. Download that. There's 150 tips. I basically wrote an email every day for 6 months on everything to do with property, service accommodation, HMOs, rent to rent, motivation, you name it, it's in there. Some great tips in there for you to either get kick-started with your property adventure or take it to the next level. But if you're really serious and you want to accelerate your results and you want to start getting the results that I'm getting, jump on and book a call, nextlevelpropertyinvesting.com. Let's have a chat and I'll show you exactly what we can do and how I can get your game to the next level as well. Thanks very much. Don't forget to subscribe. Have an awesome day.